Mr. Robert Garcia, thank you very much for coming on to theboxingbar.com, and welcome, my man.
Thank you for having me.
And first of all, Robert, congratulations, man. I mean, Trainer of the Year 2 years in a row. What do you think of that? What does that mean for you personally and professionally?
Well, thank you very much. It's always great to hear that, from boxing fans, boxing people, boxing writers. It's always a great thing to hear. But I always say the same thing. It's not just me. I have a great team with all of my fighters. If it's with Monisto, if it's with Mikey, if it's with Brandon, I have guys that do a tremendous job with them. And I have great fighters too, that do what they're told, and they're the ones that get me to this position.
And the other day I was trying to think back of when you first started training. Being from here, there was a lot of local fighters, like around your last year that you used to fight. There was a lot of local fighters that we used to go watch, and you used to walk in the ring with them. So I wasn't sure if you were there just for support or if you were actually training while you were still fighting. When exactly did you start training?
Well, when I first started this, I started off after I retired 11 and a half years ago, which was I believe it was 2001, when I retired from boxing, when I had my last fight. I started helping out my dad with kids in the gym right in Colonia. And little by little, he started seeing that I was showing up every day and that I really wanted to do it. So he gave me two fighters, which at that time were they're still my really close friends, but they were fighting professionally. Felipe Campa and Arturo Barraza, better known as Gonzo. And I started training them. I started taking them to fight, traveling, and that's what caught my attention. When I was fighting, we would travel to the fights, but never really got to see anything. We would go to the fight, and right after the fight, come back home. So didn't really get to see much until I started traveling, and I started enjoying it, not being in a diet, and then all that, and then caught my attention. And little by little, I started picking it up and started getting different fighters. Came to a point where I got a good connection with Cameron Duncan, and he sent me Stevie Luevano, who with my guidance became world champion, and that was just the start of it.
Your father, Eduardo, who was your trainer, was he an inspiration to you becoming a trainer yourself? Did he motivate you to do that after your career was over?
Still is, man. Still is. Every time I get a new fighter, he finds out, he hears it, and right away the first thing he does is calls me and tells me what he thinks, what I should do, what I shouldn't do, and just advises me throughout my career as a trainer now. Every time I have a fight, right away, I call him and I ask him, what he's saying. He gives me his advice. He's the person that I learned from, that I'm still learning from, even though he's not involved anymore. But I'm still learning from him. He's still very smart in boxing. So he's still motivating. He still gives me advice. So he's my dad, and he's always one of the best for me.
And they call him the Big G, and I've always said that G might as well stand for the Godfather. I mean, he's the one that brought boxing into Oxnard, made it big here in Oxnard. He planted the seed that blossomed into what boxing is today and has branched out to what it is today. Like you said, you're following the tradition here in Oxnard.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Just you mentioned it. It's something that we talked about with all my nephews, my brother, and us calling him the Big G. It's always like he's the Godfather, and until now, he's close to 70. He's like 68, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, he just turned 68. And all my nephews, all my nieces, we all still respect him. And even my friends, every time my dad's around the house or something, all my friends still respect him. They're scared to do something in front of him. They're scared to drink a beer in front of him. You know what I mean? It's like he's the Godfather, and nobody does anything until he leaves, or when he's not around is when they'll do something that they're not supposed to. But yeah, that's just the way it is. We do whatever we do at my house. Every time after a fight, we celebrate or whatever. My dad comes over, and everybody's quiet. Nobody's doing anything. Nobody's drinking. And when he leaves is when everybody starts having fun.
I don't remember seeing him again after, let's say, Fernando Vargas, until your brother Mikey started fighting. He, of course, stayed involved through him. Is Mikey the only person he works with regularly?
Yes, he is the only person he works with. When my dad moved to Riverside, Mikey moved with him to Riverside. Mikey was still living with my dad, so they moved together. Now Mikey has his own house. But yeah, Mikey is the only one that he's still involved with. My dad is with him every day in the gym. I drive to Riverside. For this fight, I was driving every day, back and forth to train Mikey. And of course, my dad being with him every day, he's a big part of Mikey's career.
I remember after you stopped your boxing career, reading on the newspaper that at one point you were going to become a police officer. Was that something that you really were going to become, and do you regret not becoming one?
Well, I did try and everything, but I do not regret it. When I first started doing everything that was required for that, I started, I went on a couple of police ride-alongs with an officer that I know from Oxnard. That I learned that it was something that I didn't want to do. When we started pulling over people and giving tickets out and all that, and I'm like, nah, that's something I don't want to do. I don't regret it. That was in my mind, and that's something I wanted to do, but I don't regret it.
And when you first got into training, what were your goals in becoming a trainer?
Honestly, I didn't have any goals. When I started doing that, I just basically did it for fun, I could say. Now I have goals. Now I want to do more things. Now that I have all the fighters that I have, now I want more. Now I could say I have goals. But when I first started, it was more like just I was doing it for fun.
Was it hard for you at first to adjust to becoming a trainer after your career had ended in boxing? Did you still get that flare inside while you were watching on the outside saying, maybe I could still do this?
It wasn't hard for me because when I made that decision to stop fighting, and this was my last fight, which was September 22nd of 2001, I think it was. It was on Fernando Vargas, Shibata Flores undercard. Well, after that fight, when I said this is it, that's what I said, and I never came back to think, I should try it again. Never. And I was only 26 years old. Never got the urge to do it again. I decided to start coaching, and I started enjoying it, and I liked it. I liked what I was doing, and I just kept going, gave it my best at what I was doing. Never went back and thought I should have continued or I could still do it again. Never did I ever lace up some gloves to spar or hit the bags or anything like that.
You never looked back?
No, never did.
And one question I got to ask, while you were a fighter, those 3 fights that you fought and lost, Ben Taki, Diego Chico Corrales, and Casamayor, when you fought those 3 fights, you were ahead on all the scorecards, up until the knockout. Do you regret not running like anybody else probably would have to run on their lead to win those fights? Or are you glad you tried to finish like a warrior usually does?
Yeah, I don't regret it. Losing to somebody like Corrales was, to me right now, I could say I'm proud or honored to say Corrales beat me for my title. He came to become a legend. He came to give us. Till now, I still think there hasn't been a fight better than his fight against Castillo. So for me, I feel honored to say I was ahead on points, and I was beating him. The only one I could probably think that I could have done that, and maybe I should have against Ben Taki, who I was just playing with and having fun. And then last round, he catches me. Well, it's just part of boxing. That's what boxing is so exciting, that you don't know what's going to happen until the last bell rings. And now those experiences there as a fighter, those losses as a fighter have given me that experience to bring it into my fighters. I've had those cases where my fighter might be behind or my fighter might be in trouble, and there's accidental headbutt, and I'm able to stop the fight before the 4th round and make it a technical draw. Well, I'll believe me, I'll do that, because I learned that from when I was fighting, or when my fighter Alfonso Gomez was fighting Soto Corraz, and he was well ahead on points. I think it was like the 7th or 8th round where he got cut by a headbutt, and after that, they'll go to the scorecards, and we were well ahead, so why not go get that win? You know what I mean? So I learned those experiences from my fighting to bring it over to my fighters, and I think that's something that's given my fighters the edge and the advantage against their opponents.
And speaking of Castillo that you brought up, I know, or I seen from the postings that Pelos was putting that I guess he was sparring with them yesterday at your gym and the day before, and I hope he got some good sparring in. I've had Pelos on here a few different times. I bet waking up every day, in your shoes, with everything you got going, I mean, you got your personal life going, you got your gym to run, you got your fighters and their schedules to go around, you got whatever things that you got going with the sport. Is it hard waking up every morning as Robert Garcia?
I wake up and I'm glad to be Robert Garcia, man. I'm telling you, right now I'm in a moment where I have to take advantage of my kids, my wife, and they're all involved. They're all part of my boxing life. When I was fighting, my dad would never allow that. Never allowed our family, friends, nobody around. Now that I'm doing it, it's a big difference when you have family around. And my wife is part of my boxing career. My kids are always involved, so it makes it so much easier. I enjoy it. I wake up and I'm just not hoping, but waiting for that call from that person that I never expect. And I've been getting a few of those calls lately where it's from fighters that I would never expect. Sometimes I have to say I can't. I don't have time. I'm walking them more, with my gym open to whatever they, whenever they want to come and train.
Now you're not away from your family doing all the training and doing all that. Now they're all a part of your boxing and a part of your career, and now you could be around them, all the time.
Exactly. That's a big difference right there. When I was fighting, going to Big Bear for 2 months before a fight, it wasn't easy. When I was fighting as a world champion, I already had 2 kids, and it's always very hard to miss out on so many things that kids do when they're growing up, and I wasn't there. Now that I'm around, even though I have so many fighters and I have so many fights going on, but most of the fights, my kids, my wife, they all go to the fight. And I'm in the gym every day, but it's here in Oxnard. It's not in Big Bear. I'm doing my training camps here in Oxnard, and they're in the gym every day too. They're part of my training camp. My kids are supporting my fighters 100%, and they work for me basically. They help me with all the amateurs, all the kids that I have in the gym. My 2 kids are work for Robert Garcia Boxing Academy. My wife also works for the gym because she basically runs all the memberships and all the bills and everything. So it's a family business now.
And since people know that I'm based here in the same city as you, everybody figures that I know your fighter's every move, or I should know it, which of course I don't. It's the first time I've ever talked to you. So let's hear it from you directly, if you don't mind. Let's start with Cali Pavlik. Is that retirement for reals, or is he just a little frustrated maybe because he didn't get that fight with Ward because of his surgery?
Look, he knew he had the fight, even though it got postponed to the end of the year. He still has, that's why I say that, because we signed the contract, and it wasn't his fault. So unless Ward retires, then the fight's not on. But Kelly knew the fight was on. But he talked to me a few weeks before he made the announcement, and I totally understand and totally support him. Look, any other fighter would have said, "Damn, let me go pick up this money," because it was going to be well over $1 million, against Ward, and basically fool his fans, fool everybody, say, do it for the money. And that's not the way Kelly is. He's not doing it for the money. The little time that we spent together, he told me he's pretty secured already. He did the right thing with his money. He invested right. So he's not doing it for the money, or else he would have taken this fight. Would have waited till September or October, whenever the fight, and pick up over $1 million and then retire. But he doesn't want to do it like that. He just feels like his body, his mind is not there right now, and he's not doing it. And hopefully he doesn't change his mind. I really hope he stays retired. And if he wants to come back and feel better, then I'll be 100% supportive also, because I know he still has a lot to give back in the sport. But if his mind is not there and his body is not asking for it, don't do it, because I went through that, and that's just hurting your body.
Amen to that. El Chino, Marcos Maidana, what's going on with him?
Well, right now, there's nothing lined up. I know that Paul Malignaggi is saying that he wants to fight him, and now that mostly Malignaggi's off, Malignaggi said that he wants to fight Maidana, so that's the fight that we're pushing for right now. And Maidana's manager, Sebastian Contours, he's working on that. He's working on getting it happen. So as soon as we know something, I know it'll be out in the media. Right now, I don't know nothing, but that's what we're pushing for him to fight Malignaggi, because that'll be a great fight. Malignaggi's a great warrior. He's got tremendous heart just to call out, somebody that difficult in Maidana. So give him nothing but respect for that. But it'll be a great fight if it does happen.
Nonito Donaire?
Donaire, right now, we are still not 100% sure. We do have a date for April, but we're not 100% sure on the opponent. Right now, there's so much going on about Golden Boy offering Top Rank $3 million to do that fight. Like, it could be true, it could be false. It's just, boxing is just full of surprises when it comes to promoters. They're not promoting together. They don't want to do fights together, which sucks. Those are great fights that should happen. And if it does happen, then I need to be more than ready to fight Miles, because there's not only Top Rank and Golden Boy in between. There's also Showtime and HBO. Nonito's an HBO fighter. Miles is a Showtime fighter. So who's going to do the fight? You know what I mean? It's not an easy fight to make. Honestly, I don't see that happening, because there's just so many things. Nonito cannot fight on Showtime. And if Oscar is offering $3 million, there's nothing we could do if HBO is not going to do the fight. So there's so many things involved in that fight that I think it's going to end up fighting maybe Guillermo Rigon deals, or maybe even a rematch. They're talking about a rematch with Darcinian. There's other fights, or maybe even move up in weight to featherweight. That's something Nonito could easily do.
All that stuff you were saying about Showtime, it's not just about the promoters,
Right, yeah,
Bob Arum, but it has to do with the channels themselves, the networks.
Yeah, boxing fans, Nonito don't want to fight Mares. If you ask me, I'm telling you, I think Guillermo Rigon is a lot more difficult for Nonito than Mares is. Mares comes straight out. I think Nonito will shine against Mares. Nonito will look good against Mares. But fans don't see that it's not only Top Rank and Golden Boy, it's also Showtime and HBO. Mares is a Showtime fighter and Nonito's an HBO fighter. So who's going to do the fight? Are they going to do it no TV or I think all this $3 million offer. I think they know HBO is not going to allow that fight, and they know Nonito can't fight for Showtime. So it's like if Top Rank would have done that. I'll offer Mares $5 million to come fight for HBO with us on HBO. He can't. He has a contract with Showtime. So you know what I mean? It's just the way it is.
Well, I didn't think of that. It is more than a two-way stop. It's a four-way stop,
Exactly.
Bam Bam Brandon Rios. I mean, he exploded onto the scene with his last fight, which was one of the best fights I've seen in the last several years against Mike Alvarado. What's he up to? Is there something that he has lined up?
Well, I think everybody's going to see that again March 30th. Brandon's already been training, and just last night we got the confirmation that it's finally done. Looks like March 30th in Las Vegas, Mandalay Bay, Brandon Rios versus Alvarado 2.
That's going to be an awesome fight. Actually, just about a day or two ago, I posted on a little fantasy fight type thing, who would win, Bam Bam Brandon Rios or Victor Ortiz at 147. Is that an impossibility to make because, like we said, all the forces and all that? Is that an impossible fight to make?
We would love to make it, but we go to the same thing, Golden Boy and Top Rank. Right now, it would probably be a lot easier if Top Rank tells Golden Boy, here's so much money, give me Victor Ortiz, let me do the fight. I think Golden Boy will go for it because that's maybe a fight that they'll make a little money off Victor. I don't think they got so much. They're not so high on Victor anymore. That's just reality. That's just the way boxing is. It's going to happen to Brandon one day. It's going to happen to Mikey one day, where Top Rank might not be so much interest. I think Golden Boy is the same way right now with Ortiz. So they probably would allow that fight because that'll maybe be a little cashing out for them. But does that fight really? Do I really want that fight? Nah, I don't need it. There's so many big things for Brandon. The rematch with Alvarado, which is coming up. And if everything goes well, because the fight's going to be hard, but if everything goes well, we win the fight, then, we're going for, Marquez, Pacquiao, those type of fights. And I think they're way bigger than something with Ortiz. Ortiz has lost 2 fights in a row. It's just those things that don't make too much sense. Let him win a couple of fights, and then, they can talk.
As a real boxing fan, I agree 100% on that. But because it is the reality type era now, and everybody likes the drama, and there's more non-boxing fans than real boxing fans, let's say like us, a lot of non-boxing fans would pay in to see something like that because of all the background drama and all that stuff. But like you said, hey, if it is an impossibility or not, it would sell itself, just putting those two names together. Now that Victor Ortiz isn't working with your brother Danny, are you guys reconciling or trying to talk again, as brothers, for all the Oxnard fans that might be listening to this?
Look, we see things like this, and my parents, both my dad and my mom, and all my sisters, we were all in New York. We seen it, and we basically agreed that, it's Danny that doesn't want to. All my sisters and all my cousins and nieces, it was 43 family members that went to the fight. They all got their flight. They all booked their rooms. They all bought their tickets to the fight. It's not like I paid for all of them, or it's not like my dad made everybody go. No. All my sisters, cousins, nieces, everything, they all decided, friends decided to go to the fight because they want to support Mike. Because they want Mike, never heard from Danny. My dad never heard from Danny about I want to go to the fight, or Danny could have easily booked his flight, bought his ticket to the fight, and show up to, support his little brother. I don't think Mikey's got no problem with Danny. Why didn't he show? So it's something that after Mikey's fight, we were all talking about it. Why didn't Danny show? Well, maybe he's the one that doesn't want to fix things. We gave it a try. My dad actually gave it a try a few months ago where we all sat together, all my sisters, myself, Danny. But his family didn't show up. They don't want to do it.
Personally, I really hope everything, ends up well, and you guys end up somehow, coming to some kind of agreement and becoming.
Well, I'm telling you, me, my dad, my sisters, we're all ready for it, and we all talk. We get together every weekend and we talk about it, and we're all ready for it. But if he, does he want to? Is he ready? I don't know. That's the problem. We wouldn't mind. He is our older brother, and we are blood. But when we don't see him calling Mikey to wish him good luck, or calling Mikey to congratulate him, or showing up to the fight. This is a world title fight where, come on, you can't miss that fight. But if we don't see that from him, then is it our job to go knock at his door and tell him what his problem is, or why didn't he do it? I think now in this case, it should be him that goes up to his little brother or calls his little brother and tells him something, right?
I agree with 100%, and it's a good thing just hearing that you're willing to and you're open to,
100%.
And that's all you can do is your part, and it's good to know that you're open for it.
Exactly, and I'm 100% ready.
Is there any fighters that you see coming into your stable at the moment?
Well, right now, there's I've been getting phone calls from quite a few fighters that I'm still thinking about, and I still might not take or might take. Few calls from different fighters. Some are middleweight, some are super middleweight that are calling me. But I'm still right now to this point. Last night, actually, I had a call with Chavez Jr. and we talked. They called me last night, and we didn't talk about training. We talked about because I know him pretty well. So he wants me to go to Mexico next week, go spend a few days with him, hang out, and have fun, and maybe talk business. But until right now, there's nothing. We're just doing it as friends. We talked last night, and it looks like next week I'm gonna go for maybe 3 or 4 day weekend or something, and spend some time over there, hang out, and maybe talk business. But there's no talk about him training with me right now. At least not from him. Everybody else tells me that. His promoter, his brother, the media, they all say that that's where he's going to train in alternate with me, and that he tells everybody that he's training with me. But he hasn't told me himself. I haven't heard it from him. So right now I'm just considering it. We're just friends, and I'm gonna go hang out and have fun, and that's it. And if we talk, and if he asks something, then of course I'll be more than happy to be his trainer. But until right now, that's all it is.
Right now I was holding my mouth in shock because that was a question that was next right after you were going to answer that initial question of if you had a new guy coming in. I was going to ask you if Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. would be a guy you would consider and would be a guy that you'd be able to handle, discipline-wise for the sport. But I guess you just answered that, by what you just said.
Wait. Let me cut you off a little before.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Before, right now that you're saying about Junior, well, I already answered the question that I would love to, but, everybody talks about his discipline and all these things, but let me the way I see boxing, and I've been in boxing, I was a boxer, I've been in boxing so many years with many different fighters, many different champions, and let me tell you one thing, they're all human. People see Chavez as the lazy fighter that doesn't want to train or that doesn't train hard or this and that, or the one that parties a lot, or the fighter that got a DUI a few weeks before his fight or got busted for smoking pot. But people don't know that he's human, and I've been through all of them. Come on, people are going to look at Fernando Vargas was a tremendous warrior. He gave us maybe a few of the best fights in boxing. Fernando liked to party. Fernando, was wild. Now Brandon Rios. Come on, people know Brandon Rios is not a saint. Brandon Rios is a wild fighter. Brandon Rios is a wild person. Outside of the ring, he likes to have fun too. Marcos Maidana, another one. Come on, everybody sees, just by looking at him, they know he's crazy outside of the ring. Marcos Maidana is pretty crazy.
Well, even just staying in the same family, Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. was known to be a very big partier, and look how successful he was.
Exactly. So that's just part of boxing. Almost every fighter likes to have fun, but since all the cameras are on Chavez and all the attention is on Chavez, well, they make a big deal out of it. But everybody, I was around Oscar De La Hoya a lot. Come on. everybody has fun. We all have fun. We all do stupid things that maybe we shouldn't do it, or maybe that the media don't find out, or they don't put it out on the press. But we all do our things that we are not supposed to.
Absolutely. I've always said, like, these stars or movie stars or whatever, that they get into trouble. And I always say to myself, if you're that young and you make that much money, how can they not get into trouble or trouble like that more? Because I know I would.
That is correct, and that's the same with Chavez. That, like, it could be with, back in the days, Fernando Vargas, Oscar De La Hoya, Shane Mosley, you name them. None of them are guys that are saints. You know, they all like to have fun. They all go around. Maybe they don't get caught. That's it. Maybe they just don't get caught. Chavez got caught. Everybody found out about that DUI. But I guarantee you, he's not the only one he's not the first one that has. He's not the first boxer with a DUI. That I could guarantee you. He's not the first boxer with a DUI.
And he won't be the last either.
And he won't be the last. But since he's the only one that they found out about, and he's a superstar, they make a big deal. But no, you know, I'm sure when he's training, and especially, you know, if he ends up coming to my gym, well, you know, I'll do my part too. You know, I'll push him and I'll train him. And it's always okay to have fun too in between, you know, on the weekend, Saturday night. Why not? Why not? I'm human. They're all human. But they got to train too.
And let's say, like, one of your fighters, you know, let's take an example. Let's say, like, Bam Bam, Brandon Rios, you know, if he didn't have this fight coming up, you know, like, let's say somebody came, or let's say Cameron Duncan came to you and said, I got this fight lined up for him, and you didn't think it was a fight that, you know, would suit him. Do you have a say in that?
Yes, I do. Every time there's a fight for any of my big name fighters, their managers, if it's Cameron or if it's, you know, whichever manager I'm working with, they always ask me, what do you think? But most of the time, if not all of the time, Cameron Duncan always, whenever he tells me, it's because he already knows it's a good fight for Brandon or any of my fighters. He doesn't agree to it until I tell him yes, but most of the time it's yes, because I think Cameron Duncan knows boxing more than anybody else. He knows which styles fit our fighters, which ones don't, and he knows which opponents to pick. So whenever Top Rank, they tell him 2 or 3 names, right away he knows which one's the best one for our fighters. So he tells me, what do you think about so-and-so? Hey, that's perfect for Brandon. That's perfect for Mikey. That's perfect for Nonito. So he already knows that my answer is going to be yes. He just wants to hear it from me.
Thank you very much for coming out to the boxing bar. You have no idea how much I love my community and how much I love boxing. And to think that you've done that much for our community and everything that you're continuing to do, it's an awesome thing. Nobody's done it before. You're the one that's brought, you know, bright lights here. You've kept them here, and I have a feeling because of that, it's going to continue here and only get bigger and better. Thank you very much for coming out to theboxingbar.com, and I hope to talk to you one day soon down the line, amigo.
For sure, anytime, and thank you. Thanks for having me, and I feel the same way about Oxnard. You know, this is where I grew up, and sometimes I say, you know, I'm not from Oxnard. Oxnard is mine. You know, this is my city. This is what where I grew up, and I think this is where I'll die.
The world is yours, amigo. Thank you very much, Robert, and you have yourself a good day, my man.
Thank you.